Hey, welcome to the Business Network Podcast. My name is Dean Renfro. I'm host of the podcast. We are so glad to have you with us. Business Network Podcast is all about helping local businesses, whether it's a brick and mortar store, an online store, a franchise, any kind of business owner that's trying to put the message out there about their business, their product, or their service. We want to interview them and give them a chance to tell their story about their service, their product, what their business is about to the world. And this gives them a platform to do that. And we're so glad to have you with us today. So let's get started with today's podcast. But first, a word from our sponsors.
There's a saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Here at Lead Grabber, we agree. You've got one chance to grab the attention of your website visitors and one functional opportunity to lead them to action. With Lead Grabber, you can uniquely greet each visitor, encourage appointments to be set, capture more leads, give more value and access in a compelling way, funnel new customers into your sales process, facilitate new and more sales, save time and more money, build your brand, and so much more with custom integrations. Impress each and every one of your website visitors. Make your site stand out from ordinary websites and your competition. We invite you to get started with Lead Grabber today.
Well, hey, that was a great word from our sponsor. We're so excited for you to be with us today on the Business Network podcast. You know, as we have come into the holiday season, it's just one of those times of the year that for some people it's a joyous time. Other people, it can be sad, depending on things that have happened in life, depending on where they are, especially coming out of COVID. For a lot of people, environments change, work changed. Some people didn't adapt well. Some people lost their jobs out of it because of layoffs and all those kind of things. And it's difficult a lot of times for people today. But yet on the same time, we seem to be coming out of that. And there's an opportunity for all of us to, as our guest today and I have experienced together, has been involved in an organization, that one of the things that we've learned in the process is that we as a person, as an individual, we have to take charge of us. We have to learn to grow ourselves as a person. We may not consider ourselves to be a leader, but you're a leader in your person because you have influence. You have influence with yourself, and you have influence perhaps with your family, with your extended work family, maybe other people in your neighborhood, wherever you are in your organization, you have that ability to be a leader. Well, today's guest is her and I have been connected. We laugh a lot of times about the things that we have experiences with, but she has been a great influence to me, a very motivated person for me to see her journey. She's an author. She's a podcast host herself. She's a consultant to corporate. She's an executive coach, a workshop facilitator, both online and in person. She's a keynote speaker. And she's just, again, a partner with us in the John Maxwell team. And I'm just so glad to have Melahni on today. And Melahni, why don't you introduce yourself, your company, a little bit about what you're doing today?
Thank you, Dean. Yes, our journey has been amazing. I remember watching you at the John Maxwell team recording and doing some lives, and I thought, I need to know this guy. And so that's where really our relationship started. And the John Maxwell team is what has inspired me to start my business. 6 years ago, I founded Everyday Leaders because I had a vision to help people overcome everyday obstacles. And so it started with a podcast. It started with a vision that I wanted to interview people that were living their lives with success to inspire other people. And it has turned into so much more. It has turned into so much more, Dean. I've been doing live events and live trainings and workshops for companies now that see the value in helping their individuals on their teams grow personally so that they can get more impact professionally. And so my journey has just been getting super clear about who do I serve, how do I serve them, and I'll tell you a little bit more later about my husband and how we're joining in the journey together. So it's been amazing.
Yeah, Melahni, I know when I met you at that first event that we were at, and some of this technology was kind of really new to be able to just, for the average person, to just do stuff like that. And as you saw, I was kind of the only person there doing it. And I thought, okay, I'm either really out of the box here, or everybody just doesn't know about this yet. But I know in meeting that we the connection, the bond that came through that, and part of that was because you were on a journey of transition at that point from where you had been before. So tell our audience a little bit about how you got here from where you were.
Yes. So, for years, I didn't know where I wanted to be. I kept working at jobs, and what I was passionate about was the medical device industry. My father had passed away when I was 5 years old of lung cancer. And so that always made me curious about medical technology. And so when I got into the world of medical device leadership and sales training, it was all about helping people connect to their customer, the messages that we're going to be able to maybe save or enhance lives through medical device technology. I loved that industry and what I did. And yet, as I grew and changed companies and started to push myself as a leader, I was challenged and maybe a little bit threatening to leadership. And so they were asking me, what's my value? If I'm not actually selling, if I'm just training and influencing behaviors, what's my value in the company? And I began to think, maybe I don't know. And I realized that I had forgotten to personally grow. Professionally, yes, absolutely. I knew exactly where I wanted to be. But personally, that was a gap that I had. And so that's when the John Maxwell team really spoke to my heart. And I thought, this is a path that I need to go, a faith-based leadership company that can help me really develop my skill set for what I knew was in my heart. And so that's what inspired me going to the conference, thinking about sitting there with 2,500 other people going, if I created my own company and I could really speak from my heart, what would it look like? And so I thought of the name Everyday Leaders, and that's where the podcast developed, Everyday Leaders 50 and 50, to help celebrate leaders that were also inspiring the world. And so, this became a brand. Dean, it became a brand 6 years ago. And I think about all the lives that I have watched people change because they have started to believe in themselves and their journey. And, I was eliminated at 50 years old as a female entrepreneur and a female corporate America leader. I just felt like, is it going to happen to me? Is it 50 years old? I'm going to get eliminated. And it did. And so what helped is I was on this personal growth journey. So it didn't affect me as much as I think it could have some people, to realize, wow, what is my value in the world? I really knew that. I really felt like I was establishing more clarity on that. And so I just kept going forward. I just kept moving and trying new things and getting connected to people that I knew would help me grow and learn as a leader. And it has taken me on an amazing journey. It really has. So that's a quick overview. And the things that I'm doing now are just multiple companies, multiple women's leadership events here locally in Indianapolis. And so it has just really filled my soul every day.
Well, it is amazing when you're around people who take a different view of when something, quote, turns sour or turns down or puts you in a situation where the people that aren't thinking about it, they kind of take the Eeyore attitude and, oh no, woe is me, and kind of attitudes, and I've been wronged, and this is not fair, and it's a very different attitude in people like yourself and myself, where we look at that and go, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to be me, to go out here and live out my dream, accomplish something more. Not that we look at it and go, oh, but because I got it all together. It's because, oh no, this is an opportunity for me to grow into what I'm doing. And you have been a great example of that. And I know numerous people have expressed that about your zeal and your enthusiasm to push this forward. I remember getting to be a part of that 50/50 podcast. And, I was cheerleading on the side. Yay, go Melahni, go, because I've gotten to see, like yourself, I've gotten to see people get out of something that they thought was a disaster and turn it into, a dream, their dream come to life. Well, one of the things I know that you guys are doing right now is kind of what's happened to people because of COVID. And that same thing kind of hit people unexpectedly. All these things happen. People forced to stay home, lost their job. Some people had to figure out how to even do stuff like this that they'd never done before and were scared to death to do. And they worked their way through it. They figured it out. And yet at the same time, it, as often happens with people, you learn things you didn't know from the people that you're around all the time. Especially in relationships and family and marriage, whether it's kids or our spouse, even our extended family. When you're put into the pressure cooker kind of a environment, things happen. And you guys have found out of that adversity of COVID, I think, an opportunity to really help people grow themselves and grow their relationships, because so many people came out of COVID with relationship issues that nobody saw that was going to be an issue, but it has. Tell me a little bit about what you and Joe are doing with that ministry opportunity.
Well, here's the really cool thing, and I'll back up just a little bit, because before I tell you what we're doing, John Maxwell challenged me back in 2019 to do a Proverbs challenge. So I'm a person of faith, and I thought, this is a great opportunity for me to learn wisdom and clarity. And so I started this Bible morning leadership devotional October 1st, 2019. And so I continued that every single day through COVID. My husband, Joe, didn't join until about a year and a half ago. And he started joining in the morning and more producing, surprise, producing the morning devotional. And so it took it up a level, and it was really fun. And he was starting to grow. What we realized is people were looking at us as mentors, as couple mentors, how we were coaching people, how we were showing up consistently together through COVID, what we were learning about each other in our relationship. And then I joined the Y Institute and started to do more discovery assessments about relationships and communication. And so Joe and I have actually put programs together now where we're helping other couples learn how to show up consistently and communicate with each other. And it has been transformational. What we're able to do is really see gaps where people are struggling or suffering and help them get really clear about maybe some things that they have just had fear about. And COVID has really brought all of that out, hasn't it? It has shown us maybe the ugly sides of ourselves, that because we have a belief problem still, because we aren't able to show up for ourselves, or we don't believe we're worthy or enough, or we can't accomplish that. And so what I know is Joe and I were set up on a blind date and we got married about a year after that. And we have been married for 31 years. And so we have had to figure out a lot of stuff, good and bad, ups and downs through COVID. We don't have kids, so there's nobody else to really bounce off of. It was just us. And so we think we have a lot of value of the lessons that we've learned and the value that we can bring to people just by helping them get clear about their own communication.
Yeah, that's my wife and I were set up on a blind date. And we didn't wait as long as you and Joe waited. We got married within 6 months, but it's the same kind of story. I mean, my wife came out of a background where it was very different than mine. Her parents were her dad had a 9-to-5 job, very good job, come home, leave the work at home. I grew up in an entrepreneur home. We worked every day of the week and after hours and all this kind of thing. So it was very different for her in that environment. She had never been involved with anybody in a ministry life. That was different. That scared her to death. And so we had to go through that, as well. And I know some of these things that we both learned, and some of the things that you guys are doing have been instrumental, in keeping us connected. I came out of a broken home, so one of the first conversations we had is, that word with a D and it ends with an E, and it's got 7 letters, and there's a popular song all about it, divorce. We made a commitment that's never coming up. No matter what happens, and we have been committed to that thick and thin. We've been through some tragedies, together, both in family and in ministry with people. And yet it's because, like you said, we that we discovered things and we kept working at it. We kept working at it. We're not perfect. It doesn't, I mean, we still have issues, all the time. But as you know, coming out of COVID, for a lot of people, stress really brings out for people, things that they didn't even know about themselves. Mm-hmm. And I know, as a certified disc trainer, you know that we revert to that. We revert to our real self in stress. In emergency and stress, we revert to us. And sometimes we wore a mask or had to be somebody else so long, we didn't know that person existed. And then our spouse or our kids are looking at us going, who's this person? And so, I get it. It can cause a lot of issues. So what are some of the topics that you and Joe talk about in some of the training you're doing that you I know you probably do some of it live, but you do it virtually as well. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It starts with the clarity, right? So clarity about who you are, who you believe that you are. And then we go through an assessment of communication. And so that looks like, really taking an assessment from the Why Institute as well as DISC. The Why Institute is where we start because it breaks down 9 different profiles of what really fuels you naturally. So when we look at DISC, we say that's the how. So we do the why, the how, and the what. And really the why is how you naturally show up. And so, Dean, I would always think that I was a contributor. And in these 9 categories, there's 9. One of them is a contributor, which means you show up to add value to people. It's so important for you to do this in your life. And I naturally am attracted to that. And so I thought, well, I don't even need to take this discovery, right? When you look at something as a coach, you say, I already know the answer. Yet when I took it, I realized that that wasn't the truth. That's not what really fueled me, not to just contribute. It was to challenge the status quo. So when I go back and connect the dots in my life, I realized that is absolutely the truth of what makes me whole and complete and confident, right? And that's the part that when you say, what have we lost through COVID? We've lost the confidence. We've lost confidence to go back out and talk to people socially. We don't know what the rules are. Do we wear a mask or not? Are we allowed to speak to people? Do people care about us when we go into a restaurant or are we afraid? Right. And so it's all of these. Do we get on a plane? Do we go on vacation? Like we don't know what decisions to make confidently. So what I've learned is if you know how you show up with confidence, then you can start to build your life and your communication around that. So I'll give you a little secret. Joe's why is trust. So when we look at my challenge and his trust, those are complete opposite spectrums, right? He really wants to build relationships and gain that trust from people. I'm like, just go do it, right? You'll find out the answer. And so what we learned about each other is how to show up ultimately and respectfully for each other so we can get the best out of each other instead of, why do you care if I'm on time all the time? Because it's important, right? It's important to Joe. So then I realized, what do I need to do to really honor him instead of, why is he always bugging me or nagging me? It's the same thing, right? Why are you always pushing me out of my comfort zone? Well, it's because I'm a challenger. And so when you realize this, and then you put the disc together with that, Dean, wow, it's how do we then activate that natural state? And so it gives us so much clarity on how we're going to communicate, but really what we can expect from each other naturally. And so then let's use our strengths and let's be better together. Let's be better communicators. Let's be better parents. Let's be better aunts and uncles. Let's get out in the community and serve bigger and better. And that's what we have been learning through this journey. And it has been so fulfilling.
There's a saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Here at Lead Grabber, we agree. You've got one chance to grab the attention of your website visitors and one functional opportunity to lead them to action. With Lead Grabber, you can uniquely greet each visitor, encourage appointments to be set, capture more leads, give more value and access in a compelling way, funnel new customers into your sales process, facilitate new and more sales, save time and more money, build your brand, and so much more with custom integrations. Impress each and every one of your website visitors. Make your site stand out from ordinary websites and your competition. We invite you to get started with Lead Grabber today.
Well, Melanie, I think too, kind of when we talk about this deal, how many sessions is it? How long does it take? Is there cost to it? Those kind of things. What can our viewers need to know if they want to participate in something like this? And I know there's people that are sitting there going, that's our problem. Now we got to figure this out, kind of because they want to, it's easy. A lot of times people want to take the easy road and just say, I'm through, it's enough, this is too hard kind of thing. But then there's people who are like, no, I want to salvage this. I want to fix this. I want to grow my relationship with this person, especially if you've been married to somebody any length of time at all. It's like we have to figure out how to make this work. So tell me a little bit about how y'all are looking at doing that.
Yep. So we have an introductory class. It's basically a group coaching call, the first call, which is an hour, and then we do one-on-one coaching after that. We actually have a special right now through the holidays. So if this is running through the holidays, it's only $297 for both of you to go through this and get clear on what your why is, how you show up, and what each other can ultimately expect from each other. It is such an opportunity to just get clear about, hey, if we're going to give up on something, don't give up on yourself and don't give up on each other. This is the real time to get straight and get real. And it's an easy way to have fun too, because Joe and I will have fun with you. But then there's, I would say the typical couple needs about 3 months of consistent coaching. So learning about yourself and how to communicate this. It's not just now we discovered it. Now, how do you live it? Right. And so what are you doing for your work? Are you still at home? How do you need to strategize for the right and best success in your life?
Well, and I know that is so true. Anybody can read a book, anybody can listen to a session and go, okay, I got it. Like you said earlier, sometimes as coaches, we're guilty of that exact same thing. Oh, I got that. I know what that is. But we also have learned a very basic principle that it takes that third voice. It takes somebody on the outside looking in, because oftentimes it's pretty much like the hand in the face. It's right there, and the answer is on the other side, but we can't see it because we're not on the outside, and it takes somebody from the outside helping us. And that, for me, that principle that you guys are sharing here is let us go with you on this journey to help you through this is, I think, so important for people today. And so when we think about it, like you said, this will get broadcast before Christmas. So here's a hint for people: give this as a gift,
right,
to yourself and to your spouse, to your family. And it'll help you all the way around. I guarantee you, it'll help you as a parent. It'll help you at work. My wife, uses this concept and idea every day at work. And she comes home sometimes grinning and says, I got to tell you this story, what happened today. But before we learned all these things, before we were involved with Maxwell and grew ourselves and learned a lot of the things that Joe and Melanie share, is you took things personal, or you just you didn't understand why would somebody say that or be that way. She comes home all the time telling those stories. She said, you got to hear this story. And she'll just grin and go, I didn't take that personal. I didn't get offended by that. I thought about this, I thought about something we'd learned, and like I said, understanding their why. Where are they coming from for that? Why are they, why is this important to them? And I don't think it's that big of a deal, but to them, it's a big deal. So I think that's something that we can express to everyone, that it's worth it. The investment in yourself is worth it. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your spouse, your family, your job. Find a resource, and this is one of those. I'll tell you personally, this is one of those that's going to help you navigate those waters. And I would recommend it, to anyone. I haven't been faithful in the devotional, but I listen in quite often, and I always learn something about it. I always see a different perspective. And so I think it's taken the steps I want to do this and taking that advantage. Well, Melanie, as we kind of get ready to wrap up here, tell folks how they can find out about this, where they can register for this, attend the first session, find out, it's that try it, see if you like it kind of approach here. I think you'll be totally, just like, oh wow, this is something that, where's this been all my life, kind of a thing.
It gets you clear. I'm telling you that. Everything that I do, you can find at everydayleaders.com. Just www.everydayleaders.com. That's where you can find it.
Great. I appreciate that. And folks, I encourage you to go there, check out the other resources that she has. Again, here's a person who has great experience in not just coaching people in that environment, but a wide range of tools and resources that can help you and your life, your work life, especially as a woman. If you're a woman listening to this today and you've thought about the entrepreneur thing, but you've been afraid because sometimes it's that whole stigma of it's a man's world out there, but that's changed. That's changed, and there's so many resources like Melahni has that can help you, and inspiration and those kind of things. Well, hey, folks, we're so glad you were with us today. Melahni, once you got a closing word here for folks, encourage them as we kind of wrap this up.
My favorite quote that I have really established is how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you can get clear about what you believe and what you care about and what you're passionate about, then you can be consistent in every area of your life. And that will help you improve in every area of your life.
Wow, what a great show today. I appreciate our guests, each and every one of them, as they come on and are part of the Business Network podcast. You too perhaps might be a business owner and you'd like to feature your business and tell your story, and we'd love to have you as a guest. You can go to the businessnetworkpodcast.com, and you can see the link here on the screen, and just fill out an application. It's not an obligation to be on the show, but we want to start the process with you to be able to say, hey, let's talk about your business and see how this podcast could be a great fit for you, and for you to get the assets that go along with this show to be able to promote your business in a lot of different places. So, hey, thanks again. We look forward to you being with us again on the Business Network podcast. Talk to you soon.